Okay, so I'm here in Chicago. You can see the towers. I'm not sure if you can see those. Um, I was here, I guess as some people know, to meet my biological mother, and it really went amazingly well. I am adopted. I'm 41 years old, and for, I guess, some health reasons and some other reasons, I got married about a little over a year ago, and I decided to try to find out about my biological mother, and it it was a slow process, and it really it was pretty amazing. We came into contact, we did some email exchange, and then by phone, and then we set up a meeting here to meet at the Art Institute in front of the Lions on in Chicago. And I guess the things I want to say are, and I guess this is kind of for some people. Anyway, I think it's a pro adoption video. That's what I want to talk about here, and it's not to be anti-abortion. I don't think it has to be pitted as either you're pro adoption or anti-abortion. I think there are different reasons that people make different choices, but I am going to speak to the benefit. Um, for some cases and some situations, at least my situation, uh, for this. I grew up always knowing I was adopted. I was adopted at 5 weeks from Madison, Wisconsin, and my parents, Ron and Sue, I loved dearly. They grew up knowing I was adopted, and my mom was adopted, and so she's been very supportive of me doing some of these questions and finding out about my biological mother, and it's really just amazing, for my biological mother, who, she was a young person and got pregnant, and the situation led her to give me up, and she then later on went on and got married, had a family, raised a couple of children, and her husband died, and she in some way was in a position, right? I mean, just fortuitously, for me to, I guess, open up this discussion or this inquiry with her. And um, I think from my perspective, I guess it was a chance to say thank you. That, I love my parents dearly. I love my brother, my grandparents. I had a wonderful, absolutely wonderful life. And I mean, I think that's part of the ambiguity of it. I think some people are given up for adoption and in closed cases, and this is something that I talked with my biological mother about. That in the '60s, in the late '60s, adoptions were generally closed, and you didn't know who the baby was going to be given to or what the conditions were going to be like, but you hoped that it was going to be for the best. Today, many people use surrogate mothers, or they may pursue knowing or being in a relationship with the adopting parents. This wasn't that situation. But I think the more important point was that for her, my biological mother, this was an event that was filled with all kinds of negative emotions, everything from fear and anxiety to pain and suffering and loss and embarrassment and shame and hardship. And in a lot of ways, it was it was something that she probably took a long time to try to forget and to seal off and to let go. Whereas for my parents and for me, it was the greatest gift that a person could have given. I mean, my parents couldn't have children, and because she was willing to go through with that pregnancy, because she was willing to give up her baby for adoption, I came into the world, and my parents got to have a family, and we had a great family. I have an amazing family. My parents are the best, and my parents, they said, and they sent me a big, set of photos here to share with my biological mother, and it was just amazing. I think for her to hear, my biological mother, to hear that my parents love her and they're so thankful that she was willing to do all that. And, for me, it just really stresses that the exact same act for one person can be again, hardship, embarrassing, um, very stressful in negative ways. Whereas for my parents, it was the most heroic, beautiful, loving, courageous, very different words come into play to describe what happened. And I do think that not every case is as rosy as mine was, right? If anybody's ever seen the movie Flirting with Disaster, please go check it out, right? It's a really funny movie. If you are adopted and you're thinking about finding out about your biological parents, I would recommend that movie. It's a good way to, put it into context that, you're opening cans of worms. It could be very selfish. You don't know the situation that led that person to do that, and in some ways, it is selfish, but if that person is willing to do that and to come into contact with you, it can be really amazing. I mean, I got to say thank you, and both for myself, from my deepest sense of gratitude for having done something that, I mean, I think it's enabled me to imagine having not been. The radical imagination of having not been. I guess everyone has that, but being an adopted person, I think I've always really thought of, what would have happened if I would have not been, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right? It just doesn't make any sense. I think the moral of the story is that not everyone does have a great experience. I think, I know several people who are adopted, and the experiences have varied. Some people end up in foster home, or some people end up in families that were partial adoptees, or that their families were abusive or neglectful. That really wasn't my experience, and so I guess I'm here to say to people that I am in Chicago, and I had an amazing weekend. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience, and I would encourage anyone who, if they're thinking about either giving a baby up for adoption, or of if you are a person who is adopted and you're thinking about, is it worth your time or energy or effort to think of coming into contact with that person? I think for me and for my biological mother and for my parents, this is an amazing, amazing and beautiful event. So just thought I'd share that with people. Okay, thanks.